What is up, everybody? Josh Tapp here again, and welcome back to the Lucky Titan. Today, we're here with Erik Salzenstein, and I'm stoked to have him here. I mean, this guy's story is one of those ones that you're going to remember. I mean, this guy who went from prison to purpose is really his message, and I love that because I've only met one other guy who came out of prison and basically made it very large. I mean, the guy came out and decided to become a coach, help a lot of people along the way, and I'm excited to kind of pick his brain about coaching today. So Erik, say what's up. Let's hop right in, man.
Hey, yeah, I appreciate the intro, Josh. I'm pumped to be here with you guys and looking forward to diving in and dropping some value, having some fun. So yeah.
Let's do it, man. So my first question for you today, Erik, is if you had to start a business over from scratch and you only had 90 days to create a livable income, which sounds like was almost your story, what would you do? What type of business would you build?
Ooh, what type of business? I mean, first I mean, going back to when I started, it's where can I add value? It's that question where, based on my superpowers, my strengths, my passions, my experiences, my talents, my skill set, knowledge, whatever, all the stuff, right? Where can I add value? Or what can I deliver to somebody that is valuable? Follow-up question is what problem can I help someone solve, right? It's those basic questions. And, Tony Robbins talks about it, people who are successful ask better questions, so it's really just asking yourself those questions, sitting in that, and then whatever that is, moving on it. And it's all market. Everything at the start is all feedback for you. So test, if it doesn't work, you test again and just, but I think at the start, man, it really is. It's got to feel good that you have to know that you can deliver value to someone, help someone solve a problem. And if that's the case, then you've got a business on your hands.
Yeah, I love that. See, and the thing that a lot of people think about when they go to build a business is product first, and we talk about that here a lot on the show is product comes second, right? The problem comes first. Figure out a group of people you like to work with, figure out the problem, and then provide a solution to it. And what I love about your model, working in the coaching space, it's a model that I think a lot of people don't realize they can get into a lot easier than they would think.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to ask kind of your framework and how you would recommend for people to start a successful coaching program.
Yeah. So, I mean, first you definitely have to have some form of an outline. What we teach is you only need to be 2 weeks ahead of the client, the person who signs up. So when you have established what it is that you're helping them with, whether it's weight loss, whether it's relationships, whether it's making more sales. If you're a sales coach, let's say you have an extensive background in sales, you have a coaching business on your hands if you truly want to help people make more sales in their sales careers. But whatever that is, once you establish what that is and you know who it is that you're looking to help, and you have clarity on that person, you have clarity on the problem that you're going to solve and or the results that you're going to deliver to that person. It then becomes about you shouting out from the mountaintops what the heck you're doing. So like the first things first is your social media is if you open a brick and mortar store, and you have this new shop and you're selling cookies, you're selling, tires, it doesn't matter what you're selling, but you have this new storefront. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to go down and you're going to let people know that you've opened the storefront. You're going to put flyers out. You're going to reach out to local businesses and see if we can team up somehow. You're going to do all these things to let people know that you are here, right? It's the same thing with your social media. So when you do have that idea, that course, that program, and it doesn't have to be fully built out, you have to start shouting it out, man. You got to start talking about it, and you have to start letting people know why you're doing it. And here's the big thing. You need to attach emotion to it. You need to let them know the passion that you have for this space. You need to talk about why it's so important to you that you're showing up in this way. You need to let people know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it can help them. And what's going to happen is when that messaging's dialed in and there's clarity behind that messaging, the right people are going to start raising their hands, right? And so it's a very simple conversation at the start. It's, you want these results, I can help you with that. and you take all those bells and whistles out of having like your entire members area built out and the fancy landing page, a full funnel, collecting an email, freebie to an email list. Like you don't need any of that. You don't need a single bit of that starting out. What you need is an offer, and you need to be able to deliver results to somebody. That's it. You need to be able, and like I just did a post on this the other day, 3 tools: Voxer or Telegram for communication in between your calls, Zoom to be able to record those calls. And then I recommend a Google Drive to where you can put those recordings, resources, homework. But that's it. You have your weekly calls, bi-weekly calls, whatever way you set it up. You've got your communication, whether it's Slack, Voxer, or Telegram, all these are free. And that's going to be your communication in between those calls. And then you have your email / Google Drive to kind of like a shared folder that you can put things in. You can have a 6-figure coaching business with that alone. With that alone, I got to 10K months in my first coaching business. That's all I had, right? And again, you don't have to have this whole thing built out. You need to be 2 weeks ahead of the person. And you can be building out the program and putting all the touches on and all that stuff as the person's going through, and you're getting that person results.
See, and I love the simplicity of your methodology. And the thing that resonates with me is because I didn't actually set out to be a coach. I had a guy come to me and he's like, Josh, what do I have to pay you to teach me how to do marketing? I was like, wow, really? Like that's all it's going to take. And at the time I'm like, well, I know a little bit about it. I kind of understand how it works. But that's what I did is so he paid me on a monthly retainer. And all I did is I'd spend more than half of that on learning so I could stay ahead of him on it.
Wow.
I bought me a ton of course and everything. And from that's where our whole group coaching program and everything came from, was from all that education that basically he was paying for and I was keeping the profits from. And, he ended up making way more money than even I did from what I taught him, which I thought was cool. But it was such a good learning experience for me. Like you're saying, like just stay 2 weeks ahead. And then I also love, secondly, I mean, those 3 tools, I had never even thought of that. You don't even need a course area. I mean, literally put it onto a private Google Drive that they need a password to sign into or something, right?
Yeah, no.
Brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant.
Not at the start. When you naturally, if you truly want to take this to the higher levels and you start talking about, positioning, you start talking about your brand, like really brand awareness, the look, feel, and, you're starting to get on stages, starting to speak, you're like, that stuff is where there has to be a little bit, I think, of a higher end presence. But at the start, especially at the start, when you're limited on those resources, yeah, man, simplicity is the way to go for sure.
See, and I love that because you can, once the money comes in, you can pay somebody else to do all that for you. And you don't even have to worry about it.
Yep.
And I know we work with a lot of people who want to get into group coaching. And so they're like, okay, so I'm just going to start my course. It's like, no, go sell 5 people on it first and then build your course.
Yeah. Let's get some testimonials in the door first before you spend however long on all these videos and all the things, right? Like, money in the business, money generating activities, and client and delivery, which it gives you the second thing, which is huge and is the lifeline of your coaching business, which is testimonials. So, that's the focus at the start.
See, and I love that. And I have to highlight this about your story, because being somebody who, you had all the reasons not to do this, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have a following, or I'm too scared, or what have you, right? But you said you got out of prison in 2017. Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah. July of 17, I got out. I did 4 years in Florida State Prison.
See, so 4 years later, though, you're running nearly a 7-figure business at this point, right? And that is pretty crazy. And a lot of people will look at that and just be like, okay, if he can do it, I can do it, right? And I'm sure that's probably why you share the story a lot, right? Is because it makes you relatable. And for you, I just want to ask you this, because when you came out of prison, where was your network at? And how did you start closing your first initial sales? Oh,
man. So the network was non-existent, really. My brother, he's been in the entrepreneurial space for quite some time. He's the one who really put me on. He took me to my first entrepreneurial event, Craig Ballantyne, Perfect Life Retreat in San Diego, who you could talk about full circle. I'm actually a speaker at Craig's mastermind in Miami next month. Which is freaking just still mind blowing to me. Yeah, really, really cool. But yeah, I went to his event. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be speaking. I'm supposed to be coaching. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And my first client was actually a female. So my first coaching business, I did end up tailoring it more towards men. It was a hybrid of fitness and life coaching, high performance coaching. And but my first client was a female. She reached out to me. She ended up working with me for about 6 months, lost about 50 pounds, started a photography business, like more confident than she's had in her entire life, still friends to this day. She reached out and she was like, Erik, it looks like you've made some great changes in your life and I'm stuck. And you're always so motivated. You're always so inspirational in your messaging. Like, can you help me? And nothing has been launched yet, like nothing. I'm a server. I'm working 2 different restaurant jobs. I am considering speaking. I haven't even gone to this event yet. So I kind of ahead of myself but I signed her up for $140 a month, for a call a week. And like, man, it was such a good experience. I literally used those resources I just talked about. And I went to that Craig Ballantyne event, and that's when kind of the doors opened up for me. And then it was just like after that, I was just, every dollar I had went to investing, coaches, summits, events, workshops, courses, whatever I could. And slowly but surely, I worked my way up to consistent 10K months in that business. And we got the TEDx talk, got the speaking business going. Yeah, man, it took a while. It took me 6 months before I hit my first 5K month. It took some time, but the sales started coming in very naturally and organically. And then that message I shared with you about, speaking it from the mountaintops, that's what ended up happening. After I had her, and after that, I went to that Craig's, I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. I don't care how long it takes. And this is a big thing I tell my client, like, you need to go into this thing with the mindset of, I don't care how long it takes, I am going to be a full-time coach one day. Right? Like, that should be, because you're building a business and you have a lot of people in the space. You have to want it more than other people, and you have to be willing to put the time in it's going to take to really bring it to fruition. And if you have that mentality and you are delivering real value and you are solving real problems, it's only a matter of time before you're at that stage where you can leave the 9 to 5 or whatever it is that you have going. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I love that. I mean, I was in a mastermind probably 2 years ago now, but one of the guys said something like you're saying that just totally stuck with me. He's like, the people who win in business aren't the people, there's nothing special about them other than they decided to stick at it longer. And he's like, so your goal as an entrepreneur is to always just find ways to buy yourself more time, because you'll get there. You just have to keep buying time. And I love, love, love that, because my journey, 6 months, like, that was a long time. It took me like a year and a half before I even made $5,000, let alone a $5,000 a month. There were a lot of times to give up in there, but for us, it was like, okay, I just had to keep buying myself more time. And that's, how we got to where we're at today.
I love that verbiage there. I haven't heard that or used that, but buying yourself a little bit more time. I do like that. I can definitely see that. For me, it was always, I need to make enough to leave I was working 2 restaurant jobs. Right. So I needed to make enough to leave the one, and I did, got out of that one. And then it became, I need to make enough to leave this one. And I eventually did. Right. But it was like this process of, eventually I'm going to be out. Like, eventually I'm going to be full. There was never a question, and I didn't care how long it was going to take. I got impatient at times. I questioned it. Like, I did, like, those thoughts of, man, this is hard. Like, give up, like, whatever, like, those thoughts entered, but it just, no, I'm going to be like, I always pushed through that. There was always the end mission stayed intact. I'm going to be a coach one day. And sure enough,
And then you raise your prices and realize it's so much easier when you charge more, right?
The high tickets. Yeah. That happened for sure.
I definitely, there's kind of this like coaching progression that everybody has. It starts off at $150 a month or whatever, right? And then you eventually realize, like, wow, I could charge $100,000, and there are some people out there who will need what I have, and they will make more than $100,000 working with me.
I haven't done that yet. 100K. Yeah, that sounds like a fun client. I haven't landed one of those yet.
But the mentality with it is so important, I feel like, because I know for me, we were we had a $150 a month group coaching program, and we had like, I want to say maybe 80 to 100 people in there. And it was like herding cats because you're constantly dealing with questions and concerns. And if you've ever done coaching, you understand this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was we weren't making enough money that I could offload some of the work to somebody else, right? Because like, that was paying me basically like what I needed to live.
Right.
So I had to handle that all myself. And so the scaling was really, really difficult. And so that kind of leads into my next question for you, Erik, is how are you taking it, from your first clients to actually scaling it out? I mean, you guys are right now in the process of scaling. We talked about it in the pre-call, you're about to blow up this new coaching program that you have. How are you scaling it?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it was the big question I asked myself is, what do I want to get off my plate first? So I'm a closer. I have a sales background. So, a lot of people want to get sales off their plate right away, but you got to think about it. You're going to be losing commission. And it's also like, are you good at sales? Do you enjoy sales? If it's the biggest thorn in your side, then it may be worth that commission hit to free yourself from those calls. And then you can focus on something else. But you really got to ask yourself, like, what needs to bit off your, like, for me, I don't want to touch graphics. I don't want to touch editing. I don't want to touch any of that. So my first hire was a VA from the Philippines. And he's been with me since day one. And he's played different roles. He did lead gen for us at one point. But his main, like right now, he's solely just graphics, design, editing. And then when I had to choose between my next big hire, it was, I wanted to go co-coach. So instead of taking sales off my plate, truly what I wanted off my plate, because I'm a closer and I like sales, I wanted help with supporting our clients. That's going to give them better results. That's better testimonials. That's feeding the engine, that's feeding the business. And so that hire was big. Bringing someone on to help with the clients was a big hire for me. But I do think when you come to scale, one is going to be the team, right? So what can you get off your plate first so that can free you up to be either focused on new money generating activities or doubling down your efforts already in what's working? Those are the questions you have to ask. And that kind of leads into the second thing with scale, is always like, if you can get more juice out of what's working, stick to what's working. Don't just jump ship because, and I had to learn this. This is a big lesson for me. Don't just jump ship because this seems more fun. If you're doing 20K months right now with an organic lead gen strategy of some sort, well, do what you can to get to the 40K months before you do anything else. Like, get it for all it's worth. So check the data. How much more room do you have on, and all the different metrics? And, we have limitations now, right? In these different platforms. And, but I think that's the second big thing with scale is if you have something that's working, sometimes it's just doubling down those efforts. That's your quickest way to scale. Right. And it also depends on what stage of the game you're at. So when you talk scale, are we talking going from 5 to those 15, 20, 30, or are we talking like jumping up to those 80 and 90K months and crossing over 7? Like, those are different things are needed for those different levels. Right. So.
Right. Well, and I love that. I mean, it's kind of the rules of ones and threes, right? I mean, you get stuck at 100,000, then you get stuck at 300,000, you get stuck at 1 million and 3 million. And you always get stuck, and there's a different layer of scaling that's needed. And I think where you guys are currently out, like we've talked about, right? You've been outsourcing more of your lead generation to scale, way past the 7-figure mark at this point. And that's kind of what you have to start outsourcing, because you're the bottleneck at that point, right?
Right. Correct.
You can be the only one who's being the salesperson and the lead generator and all these things. You're the bottleneck. And I'm actually really intrigued though about how, you said you actually hired somebody to manage the clients. Like that's really intriguing to me in the coaching sector. So how did you find that hire, and who did you end up putting in there to help?
Yeah. So this was actually my girlfriend. Helped her get up to 10K months in her business, branding and content. And she's incredible at what she does. And so we put her on basically to come on with just some additional support. So we did the modules thing, right? So now we had modules, and then I moved to group calls. So that freed me up from all the one-on-one. That was we went one-on-one to group. That was the big first move. Then we went group to evergreen with the modules. And then from modules, evergreen signups, that's when I brought her on to help with co-coaching, basically like bi-weekly check-ins. So now she's doing the one-on-one check-in supports. I'm staying with group. What does that do? Frees me up to focus on, more lead gen or whatever the case is. And what I think I've been really good at doing, this is the one thing I keep going back to is, I think it was Henry Ford. Basically talking about why do I need to know everything when I can simply go to under my desk here, press whatever button I need, and that person's going to come in and get the job done for me. And so what I think I've done really well at is, we have a social media growth coach who's focused on helping our clients with social media growth. And we have the way he delivers to our clients. We have a delivery and tech coach. He's focused on helping them when they're ready to get on the modules, but at the very least, when they're first just starting out, worksheets, how to deliver better, how to be the mom, dad type of, hard, tough love versus soft approach, like how to be a better coach, right? How to deliver better to your clients. We've got Yasmin, branding and content. We've got a money mindset coach, Brooke Ritchie. So we have these different specialists, right? And we all have one mission. And they're contractors. So I'm not paying full-time salaries besides Yasmin's. They're contractors and they get paid based on volume and based on work. And it works for me because it gives our clients, we're over delivering to our clients in a sense of that. But yeah, I've been slowly, it's always been for the client. So one thing I'll say for scaling, for just my decisions are always they're always around the client. Probably even more so to where it can hurt me to where I'm not respecting my boundaries enough. But man, I just have a heart, like I have a servant's heart. I make the decisions based on, is this going to help the client? Is this going to make this simpler for the client? How can we improve the client's journey? How can we make the path of least resistance for the client? Like those are all. And so yeah, that's been definitely as far as hiring and building a team. I think it's just really putting trust in that other people can bring stuff to the table and do a better job than I can in certain areas.
Yeah. And I love that. And that's a cool model. I was just kind of curious how you've ended up doing that. I'm still the one coach in our group coaching program. And that's probably our next big step is saying, hey, it's time for me to bring in some other experts. Cool. Well, that's really awesome, Erik. I do appreciate you sharing that with us because that's what's so intriguing to me about your methodology. Again, is it's simple, it's precise, it's scalable. And a lot of people are spending way too much of their time trying to make the course better and all these different things. And when the reality is like, go sell it, make it.
Conversations lead to conversions. That's it. That's your methodology for 6 figures. You want 8 and 10K months. You focus on that problem you're solving. You focus on the results you're delivering. You get freaking good at it. And then when you can't handle one-on-one anymore, because one-on-one, what's one-on-one going to do for you? It's going to get you the best testimonials, probably, most likely, right? And those will feed into getting you more clients. But when you can't handle one-on-one anymore, that's when you move over to that group. And that's the next step. And then you master group and you master delivering on the Zoom call with 10 people, because that's a different dynamic than that one person, right? So it's another thing that you need to improve on as a coach. And it's just this growth process, man. And, but at the end of the day, it always comes back to one thing: serving. So it's like with the simplest form, conversations to lead to conversions are sales. Sales is not, you don't have to put pressure on sales. You're here to serve people. Just show up and serve people and support people. The sales will come. So it's just like, it's like simplify. Yeah, that's it, man. We make this thing too hard.
Yeah, no, I love it. And the thing is like you're saying, people are overcomplicating it, but I love what you said, conversations equal conversions. That's the 6-figure formula. I mean, the thing that people don't realize is like, literally, you should do that until you hit multiple 6 figures easily.
That's what we did. Literally, That's what we did.
Right. Start conversations and then train your salespeople to do the same.
Correct. Right now, I'm in the middle of training my sales team now. I'm literally removing myself from sales as we speak. We've got our full DMs to clarity calls, and now we have our game plan calls, our closing calls. So I'm very close to getting myself completely out of the sales. But like, this is what you just said is what we did. So you nailed it. Like we just duplicated and put more time into having more conversations. And once you know that data, that's the other big thing. Once you know the data, you know that if you close at 50%, if you're a 50% closer, well, if you want 5 sales a month, guess what you need? You need 10 sales calls a month. And to get 10 sales calls a month, well, you tell me how many conversations do you need to have in order to book 10 sales calls? If it takes you 100 conversations to book 10 sales calls, well, one, that's a bottleneck. We got to fix that. But if that's the case, then every single month you need to have 100 conversations to get those 10 sales calls, which will get you the 5 sales. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you reverse engineer, then but the only way that works is if you know your data, and you have to know your data at all these different points.
Yeah. Love that. And honestly, we could almost just end on that note, because that really is the crux of the matter. I mean, people don't realize that it's so simple. And if you're stuck beneath 6 figures, stop everything else you're doing. I would recommend you raise your prices and then just have conversations. I mean, it's so you'll close deals all the time. I know every time we bring on a new client and they're like, "Okay, I want to sell this $10,000 retreat or package or something," right? And they're like, "Okay, but how do I do it?" Right? We get them 8 to 10 sales calls, and then they've closed 5 of them. And they're like, "What the heck? I thought this was so much harder." Right? But it's like, just get the conversation. That's all you gotta do.
Right. Yep.
Well, Erik, 2 final questions for you. The first one is, where can people find you and your content?
Yeah. So Instagram, last name Salzenstein. That's SALZENSTEIN. Erik Salzenstein. That's Erik with a K. Facebook, LinkedIn. We're about to get on, and YouTube. We're about to launch our YouTube channel. I'm sure you're going to have Josh in the show notes for them to, depending on where you're watching this at. But yeah, just like Josh said, I may not be the perfect fit to help you, but I can promise you that if I'm not, I know somebody who is. So what I would say is, if you resonated with anything I said today, if you just like my vibe, you just want to say what's up. I mean, if you went to prison, you want to talk about the prison food and the goulashes, reach out to me. Whatever the story is, reach out, say what's up. Let's have a conversation. And if there's any way that we can support you in what you're doing, what your mission is, whether it's through our coaching or it's through our network, we'll definitely make sure that we make that happen for you.
Love it, man. Thank you so much for that. So we'll link all of that in the show notes. And if you're watching the video, it'll be somewhere around the video. So make sure that you go check out Erik's stuff. I love that offer, because he's saying, hey, you know what? We may not be a good fit, but if we're not, I know somebody will be a good fit.
I turned 2 people down this week. I told them I haven't fully got off these sales calls yet. I told 2 people, I said, nope, you need to be over here right now based on what you're telling me. I'm not going to take you on as a client because you're just going to be a headache. But I've got somebody who will definitely help you out. And yeah. So there's no pressure here, man. We're here to serve. We're here to help. We have an amazing community of people, and it's the right people. And at the end of the day, it's not everybody's you're not here to help everybody. You're here to help the right people, the ones who resonate with you, the ones who want to work with you. And yeah, so
make sure you do that. Well, Erik, last question for you. So if you could leave one final parting piece of guidance with our audience, what would that be?
Small steps create huge change. Stop, just take the steps. And if I were to give you any piece of advice, if you're going to start a coaching business, it would be that you need to embrace that you're starting a business, and that I would encourage you to make sure you have enough love for this thing that you're willing to see it through, no matter how long it takes. When I was a server, 2 different restaurants, working this thing up, my mentality was, I'm eventually going to make this happen. And that got me through a lot of those down times. When you don't sign a client for a month and you have that dry spell, 2 months, you have that dry spell, you're questioning everything. Small steps create huge change. Keep taking the steps. And if you don't have a coach, stop playing small, let go of the money, go hire someone.